Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the interview, Los Angeles edition. And man, I got a surprise for y'all. I have chef and television celebrity, and I'm going to say that again, television celebrity Nyesha Arrington. What's up, girl? Thanks for coming through.
What's up? Happy to be here. It's my absolute pleasure. Am I a TV personality? Am I a celebrity?
Well, let's go ahead and tell people feel your accolades then. If you don't mind, let's get right into it. Can you tell people who you are and what you do?
100%. I am Chef Nyesha Arrington. Nyesha Joyce Arrington is my full name. Um, from Los Angeles. I am a chef of 20 years and I'm out here. I'm cooking in private homes. I'm traveling the world and I sometimes cook on television.
Okay, okay. So let's get into that. Can you name some of the television shows that you've appeared on?
I would love to. So the first one was in 2012, believe it or not. And that show was called Chef Wanted. And so I won a position for an executive chef position in a kitchen. After that, I did Top Chef. And from there, I did numerous other television shows. I'm kind of like a competitive person, so I've pretty much done literally every cooking competition on the planet. And now I have the opportunity to be on the other side of the judges table, if you will, and I am a co-judge on a show called Next Level Chef.
And that's on Fox, right?
It's
That's
on
it's
Fox.
on Fox.
Uh,
Come on
you,
now, you on Fox
you
TV.
know what I mean? You might have heard of this small network, Fox Television.
Telling other people how to cook. You ain't even cooking no more. You just eating the food and get to tell them what to do.
100%. I'm definitely a voice of reason for these hopefuls that are gunning to win $250,000 and plus a 1 year mentorship from myself and my other two esteemed co judges.
Which go ahead and name drop because I don't want them. They're just not esteemed. Like people, like you're not working with just people who just be in the kitchen cooking
No,
and post on Instagram. You work with some of the most famous chefs in the world. Do you mind name dropping, please?
are you kidding me?
Yes.
First of all, yes, I would be my pleasure to name this gentleman who's actually um, came up with the concept of the show. But I want to rewind for a second and pay homage to the journey that brought me to be on this show because I remember in 2000 and I will say around 5 or 6, I was scrubbing the kitchen table down, and I remember working in this kitchen, and it was so challenging, so beautiful, so rewarding, so roller coaster of emotions. It was the first 2-star Michelin kitchen I'd worked in, and I remember asking myself in that moment, who is killing it? Like, who is top of their game? Who is the best in all categories? And I did a lot of research, and that's Gordon Ramsay. And he's got the most amazing restaurants, Michelin stars. He's worked for Michelin starred chefs. He's been around the world, and he makes amazing television programs. And I thought, that's my North Star. I want to be like that. And fast forward, I'm able to stand next to him and be almost mentored by him every day. Yes, I am a judge, but I also am a student of the knowledge simultaneously. And so, I feel incredibly honored to work next to this gentleman. He is a force and truly inspirational human.
And not just him. I want to, keep you've worked. I always have a hard time saying the last name because I fumble words like tomorrow and ambulance, like one of them words. So I know him as Guy with the hair.
Oh,
How do
yes.
So
Oh,
I don't want to butcher his last name, but you go ahead. I know he's one of the most famous chefs as well.
he is, absolutely. I'm actually have the pleasure to be able to go to his birthday party this weekend. I'm really stoked. So yeah, Guy, he would say Fieri,
Okay,
Guy Fieri.
Fieri. There we go. Okay,
Yep,
we're gonna get it right. All
yep,
right.
absolutely. Incredible human. I mean, just such a giver. And he was one of the first people I actually got to work next to, and he is just phenomenal human.
And Bobby Flay as well, right?
Bobby Flay, I've
Yeah.
definitely come in contact with for sure. Yeah.
So I mean, these are like I said, I want to bring this up because it's funny for people watching this. After you see somebody, then now you can't unsee them everywhere. So I remember first meeting you, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, 3 years, who knows how long it's been. But after I met you, then I couldn't stop seeing you on the TV. It was crazy. So y'all are definitely going to see Nyesha now. If you have not seen it, you're going to be like, that's the one that Keith had on his show. So that's what we're dealing with today. Definitely a pleasure. And you are from Los Angeles, correct?
Correct. I was born at Kaiser Hospital in West LA on Venice Boulevard. And then, yeah, my family moved to a place called Lancaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we lived there until I was about 17. So from 7 to 17, I lived out there. My parents both born and raised in Inglewood. All my aunties, everybody's out here, all my cousins. And so, yeah, and then I moved to Santa Monica when I was 17. I went to culinary school there. I got my first taste of living outside of Los Angeles, like 2008. And where did I go? No, I went to Vegas first. I lived in Vegas around, I don't know, early 2000s. And then I went to the Virgin Islands and I lived there for a year. And that was like kind of what catapulted this like idea that there's a whole other world out there other than LA and California and Nevada and surrounding areas.
Right.
But man, that was an incredible life experience.
So talk to me a little bit about your childhood. And I always say, growing up in Los Angeles, just Southern California in general, there's so many different ways to live. And I think that it 100% is lays the foundations to who we are today.
Mm.
So for you, I like to ask this question? There's advantages and disadvantages. What
Mm.
advantages do you think that you were able to gain by growing up here?
Well, I would say something as simple as, being able to play outside, and I think ultimately that's why my parents wanted us to live, out in the high desert because I mean, we went outside and rode our bikes, and year round, so that was a big thing. I played a lot of team sports. I was able to, do a lot of things outside. And I think that is an incredible part of the building blocks on how to socialize yourself as a human, as a kid, and other parts of the world might not have something as simple as that, due to just whatever that is, temperature, weather, you know um, based on where you are in the world. So I would say that had a huge sort of building block in me becoming who I am today. Actually, my dad was the coach of my softball team, so I remember some of the most fondest memories of just being outside were just throwing the ball around with him and like just learning those first like new cognitive kind of connection points in the brain that you sort of build upon throughout your lifetime.
Yeah, because if you live in certain places, you ain't going outside like that because it's too cold,
You know
right?
what I mean?
No, for sure. And I think so. You said going outside was one of the advantages. What do you think that has given you advantage wise as an adult?
Well, I think my sense of adventure. I mean, I remember as a kid, just like going down the street, right? And like, or there's like an abandoned house or something, and just going and like finding like little snails and like and I would always play like I was like I think when I was a kid I wasn't sure if I was gonna be a chef or what I was gonna do, but I thought I would maybe be a veterinarian because I love animals. And like there was this like little garden patch and I used to call it Snail City. And my sister and I would go and like explore and just do things like that. And I think, I think that was like a fun part of childhood is just being able to go outside and like, not be stuck inside playing video games, no hating on like the gaming world, but like, just like it's different nowadays,
Yeah.
I think that was a big part of, becoming who I am today is just being able to have a sense of adventure.
Yeah, because you just got back from traveling halfway around the world yourself on a quite an adventure, and we're gonna talk about that in a minute because I want to know a little bit more. But just to stay on track, what were I think in LA, anywhere, it gives you a disadvantage too because there's something you learned right when you got older and like, man, I didn't know this because of where I'm from, or I didn't get this experience, so I didn't wasn't able to get this knowledge. What disadvantages do you think you had to deal with now that you understand because you're an adult?
Mm, interesting. Well, I would say I don't know. I don't know if it's a disadvantage necessarily, but I would say, Los Angeles is a place that is sort of fast paced. It's a major city. I think as we said, being able to go outside is something that's positive. Some of those, mid states or wherever it's like snowing and brutal weather outside, it might be a little bit slower, right? So it might be a little bit of a change of pace of life. I think in Los Angeles, it's definitely go, go, go. You got to get in your car. You're going over here, and so I think that definitely conditioned my mind to kind of um, come from that place. I think, Los Angeles is 100% the land of opportunity. I think there is a bit of kind of this like old school history meets like Hollywood opulence. And I think, you know, you have this like, people, being seen and like being in crowds and things like that. So I think Los Angeles has definitely this sort of connotation to it where you want to grow up to kind of be somebody.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it definitely does, right? You can't help but seeing the Lamborghinis and the houses all day, mixed with the great weather and everybody out here with the tight bodies and all that. So, yeah, it's a definitely, I guess, it's some corrupt inspiration, if you will, so to speak.
Exactly.
You always want something, right?
Yeah.
And I think I think that's a great answer, and it's interesting because people that are from here tend to not fall into the industry that we're in. I know that you can speak to that. So is it oftentimes that, and we'll get into you being black and a woman in the industry, but even starting from location wise, I mean, are there any people that are really from LA that are in your industry like that? Or do you always tend to be the one that speaks for the area?
Yeah, that well, I think that's a sort of micro and macro place to come from because the media, I learned this very quickly and early on. I started kind of getting noticed for my cooking, and just the work I've put in to my craft, right? Like I would say that's definitely my strongest suit is my work ethic. And so I would say around 2008, I started becoming like recognized for that and like getting little articles and stuff. And I noticed like very quickly people they want to put labels on you, and like I was always like that always kind of I noticed it. They would always say, "Oh, you're so young. You're only, whatever, however old I was, under 20, running these kitchens or, you're this or you're that." And they want to put you in a box or label you. And I was always very aware of that because, like, for me, I was like, I just want to be seen as a person who works hard and wants to put in the work, and wants to grow for myself and also for others around me. And so I realized that at a very young age. And I think, it's sort of an interesting thing to be aware of, at early on.
So when you are in the space, does anybody say, oh, you know how to do that because you're from LA or from Southern California? Or let me ask you, is there a lot of representation from Southern California in your industry?
I think, I think, a lot of the people that I've cooked came up with and surrounded myself around, um, I see that they're coming up as well. And like, I think there are a lot of Southern California chefs because I'm from here and that's what I see. I think
Hmm.
so it's but from the larger scope, right? From the larger lens, from a global like international level, not really.
Hmm.
Not really. You know, not a lot of black females.
Yeah, and that's what now I'm glad you brought that up because I want to follow up with that question. Is I've never seen any black women as far as on television and the cooking game. There's one black woman, and I don't know her name, but my mom brings it up because she says she looks like my lady. She wears glasses. What's her name? I know I've had to put you on the spot like that, right? But she wears glasses. She's an older black lady. She's been doing it for forever. She's lighter skinned.
Yeah, Carla Hall.
Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the only person I've ever seen. So what's that like? Literally being almost the only black woman representation in these rooms. What's that experience truly like?
Yeah, it's Keith, it's something that I live in tandem with sort of downloading the knowledge of how that feels, and also simultaneously educating the room, right?
Hmm.
And also being aware of how I am perceived, right? Because there's also the stereotype around the angry black woman, right? And it might just be actually that I just have an opinion that's
Mm-hmm.
different from yours, you know? So, um, how does it feel? It's a lot of fucking pressure, man.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse my language.
That's all good. I appreciate that.
It's a lot of pressure, and you know, I will say in the last probably few years I learned more how much of my responsibility it is actually, you know, because I think
Mm.
before I was looking at it through a lens of how do I say? I was looking at it through a lens of feeling like a victim. Like, why don't people understand this or see this? Or they must know how I feel. When the reality is, they actually don't have any clue. And so I have to be able to have enough self awareness to take a beat, listen, and then execute. Right. And that takes a lot of self awareness. It takes a lot of uh, understanding yourself. It takes a lot of inner work, you know, and that's really, I would say, 2019, when things, as does the journey of any person who has a higher calling to themselves or any entrepreneur, right? It's a roller coaster. It's ups and downs. There's peaks. There's valleys. There's failures. There's successes, and there's successes in the failures. But I would say 2019 was the first time I actually was like, I need to do better, you know? And
Mm.
so I started doing a lot of work, the ice baths and all the inner work that I have done has gotten me to this point. And I'll probably reach new heights to be able to look at that and see that landscape of how people see me and use it to my advantage to try to further us as a people, you know?
Is there an expectation because you're a black woman? Like I can only imagine there has to be some type of expectation for you to do something well that you don't do well, or even the opposite, something that they don't expect you to do well and you excel in. Is I mean, I don't know if you can speak to some of those or personal experiences, but I can only imagine they exist. So if you don't mind talking a little bit about the expectations of being a black woman in your field.
Yeah, 100%. So it's interesting because, you know, while I was in it, like it, you know, when I was behind the line, quote unquote, cooking, you know, I always approach my craft like I would not. There's not like a really better analogy than saying like a Jedi. Like I approach cooking like it's like the Force, and so you know you really have to understand it from like a not just a tangible aspect, but mentally, physically, you know, technology, you know, Mother Nature. Like there's so many facets to understand the depth of like what it is that I do, you know, and what it is, what it means, you know, in my opinion, to call yourself a chef. And so when I look back on the come up, you know, I never, I honestly don't think I ever had the pleasure to work next to a black woman coming up, you know, and that's kind of crazy to say. And at the time, I don't even think I realized it, you know, and
Almost not till now. You
yeah,
feel like it's like, whoa, hold up,
yep.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not until now when I've had the opportunity to employ people and also mentor people that I'm like, you know, really try to share the knowledge because, you know, yeah, of course, like there's value in monetary assets, but there's a lot of value in knowledge, you
So,
know?
so how did you do it? Given that there originally wasn't space for black women in the
Yeah.
chef industry, especially not to be in a position on TV making decisions and
Yeah.
being the face.
Yeah.
How did you do it? Like, what's making Nyesha so special, or maybe not special at all? You just I don't know.
Yeah.
But how did you do it?
Yeah, that's a great question because sometimes I look back and I'm like, how did I do it? No, honestly, Keith, I will say, like, from a big perspective, from when I was a kid, like, I remember the most important thing to me was for me to like my work, right? I've always had this innate connection with, being human, being on the planet, but I realized and understood that work is a big part of life,
Hmm.
right? And how much time we spend away from our loved ones and things. So I always wanted to make sure that I loved what I did and I was never going to just try to do something just to do it for a paycheck, So I was very intentional with choosing something that was going to be good for my life path. And I remember when I sat in culinary school, I knew it. Day one, I sat in Chef Chapman's class, and I've said this many times. And I remember sitting in the first row, dead center, in front of that chef. And once he started talking about stock making and sauces, I like it felt emotional. I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life. I want to know everything. And
I mean, the reason why I ask is because historically, I mean, women are known to have it cracking in the kitchen. It's not like that's not something that's offbeat, but for you to do it, So I know. Let me say this way. I know a lot of women who also enjoy cooking and who love it, who love to cook for their families. I mean, most of our grandmothers were that woman. But in the professional setting, as such, and like I said, there wasn't really space for black women that was already made. It was kind of white male, and then it was really just male dominated in general. But like,
100%.
so was there like a particular thing to say I'm going to make space for it, or was it just like I'm not even trying to make space, I'm just trying to do my thing?
I think for me, it was like, so here's the thing, in the kitchen, you have nowhere to hide, right? The craft will always speak for itself. And, I think I heard someone say, am I as good as I think I am? I think that was you.
That's me, yeah.
And so, I think it rings true in any person, athletes, chef, someone like myself. Every day I show up in the kitchen, right? In my early stages of life, I was like, do I have the sharpest knife? Am I executing the quickest, right? And that's sort of that analogy behind being a Jedi. It's like you have to be a freaking master of your craft. And I think that has been the only way for me to excel, right? Is to put in the freaking work. And yes, it was hard. Yes, it was, and it was a different place back then in the early 2000s, right? A lot more things slid, like,
Hmm.
just trying to, work with the boys and like listening to the jokes and like blah blah blah. And it was just like I just had to like try to put my head down and work hard and outwork everyone, ultimately.
Was there ever a time you felt like, because it is the chef is kind of like the good old boys club, right? How many times you have to check somebody like, hey bro, hey, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a woman here, or had to put somebody in their place and let them know that you may be crossing the line right now. Like, does that happen often? Have you had to deal with that much?
Well, I would say that's more of like a 20-year ago conversation, but I think
Hmm.
and I don't think I was knew who I was enough back then to check it. I
Hmm.
was more like, I'm just gonna go the other way and go. Oh, all of a sudden I got to go get the parsley out of the walk-in,
Right,
and
right,
like
right.
just go about my day and just go home and just try to like nothing it.
Yeah.
Mostly is how I was operating. And so yeah, but today, I would, I'm a different person.
Well, I mean, now you're Nyesha
You
Arrington.
feel
Everybody
me?
knows who you are. You're a celebrity now. It's different. But I want to get into that too as well. It's like the career path part, right? So this is the exciting part. So how did like when did it go from, oh, I'm just going to be a chef, to like, no, I'm actually going to pursue it as a television star, because
Mm.
that's what you've become at this point. What's the difference? Because a lot of people out here chefing, but everybody ain't on TV. Like, is that a different grind? Because it's kind of, now you got to get your TV skills up, right? Is it a different grind? And what was the process of just making that decision to go from just, I'm just gonna cook and be nice at this, versus like, no, I'm gonna take it to the television.
Okay, so I think that, to be great, you have to do the small things very well. And it's like building muscle, right? Like putting in the reps, putting in the reps, putting in the reps. And I would say for me, it's been a trajectory of being comfortable with the uncomfortability. I think that that is very important because you should never stay stagnant. And so for me, as soon as I know something and I master it, I move on to the next thing. And for me, television really came naturally because I like to I like I'll use the term like monetize. Like if I'm going to be saying this today here, why not say it to millions of people at the same time, right? So it's just sort of this analogy of like if I have one restaurant, I might feed a couple hundred people, but if I am on a bigger stage, I might reach millions of people. And so that just came very naturally to me. And it's not easy. I might be up there looking like it's easy, but I constantly watch back, and say, oh, how could I do that better? Or how could I be more intentional with my words or more eloquent? But that's how I am. I'm sort of self-critical in a way where I want to not be perfect, but I want to try to, do my best always. I always try to be intentional. And I think that is a natural characteristic of people who are on television is they try
Mm.
to be a good TV personality,
But so even that, like how like what made the difference of the decision to like was it something that happened? Did you see somebody, you meet somebody, somebody tell you you should be on a TV show? Did you try out for a TV show and then you loved it? Because there's people who just want to be great cooks and they are, great chefs. But you now it's not even about just it ain't about being in the kitchen at this
No.
point. So how do you like what was the first step in the direction to getting to on like in front of the screen?
Yeah. Well, I think, I happen to be on TV and I also can tear it up in the kitchen, but I think at the core, like I'm a businesswoman, like
Mhm.
I'm about that life. And like, for me, I look at it like a root system, Keith. I'm like, I have my trunk, right? Nyesha Arrington, boom, solid. Like, what are the branches, right? Maybe it's a cookbook, maybe it's a television show, maybe it's a restaurant, right? Maybe it's a private dinner party. And as a full circle thing, I think I want to do all of those things, and it wasn't like this flip of the switch where someone came up to me and said, you're going to be the next TV star. Like it was incremental. It was going outside and playing when I was a kid, right? It was getting uncomfortable with being uncomfortable every step of the way, and just all of that progression added up to these opportunities where, when I'm cooking at a dinner party, whoever it is walks up to me and, and I have a conversation with them. And then, maybe my name happens to stick in their mind. And then they're in a meeting and they just happen to throw my name in a pot.
So yeah, so okay, so talking about that first TV experience, how did that come about? Was it like that? Was somebody you just somewhere somebody saw you? What was that like? And what was your reaction when you realized like for real?
Yeah.
Like what happened?
That's exactly how it was. Like I'd been cooking on cooking competitions for a long time, and I am the type of person where I try to be as authentic as possible. I don't want to just be on TV and be like, "Oh, I'm on TV, like I'm this TV personality. I'm out here." Like pretty much don't change. Like I'm my same self, and so I think that that potentially sticks with people. And they can see that. And I had the opportunity to go on Gordon Ramsay's show to guest judge the finale of
Okay,
MasterChef.
so okay, I don't know how did that happen though? Like who called you? What happened? Where were you? What were you doing? I want to know how that process because I mean, what did they call? What a call.
What a call. And so this is life, right? So like you got to really, it's like, so this is what's crazy. I was actually at my home, and this was the end of the pandemic time. It's like late 2020. And I was actually supposed to, uh, I forget who called. Somehow, maybe it was an Instagram DM, and there was an opportunity to do a commercial, a Ford commercial with D Nice. And so I was supposed to be like the chef on the commercial and all this
Mhm.
stuff, and then and then and then the Gordon Ramsay opportunity conflicted with that, and I had already said yes to it, so I went and did that. But I was like sideways, like simultaneously like, dang, I really wanted to meet D Nice and like be on
Hmm.
that Ford commercial, whatever. And so, but I have a manager, and
Okay.
so she brought the Gordon Ramsay opportunity to me and said, "What do you think?" And I cooked, and he was blown away, and I think he was really one of the first people that I felt like saw me, not as a woman, not as a black woman, not as anything other than you are a fucking great chef,
Hmm.
and so um, that means a lot to me because I feel like I could just truly be myself around him.
Yeah. Yeah. How much has your life changed since you've been on television? Like,
Zero.
you think so? I mean, like, do you think like when you outside now, people recognize you now, or
Here and
more, or
there.
do you see people looking at you and then they don't say anything, but you feel them looking at you sometimes?
Okay, so I was
Come
at the
on now, give me a
okay.
little bit of that. Give me a little bit of that.
So you don't be thinking about it. I'll go outside. I got my like hood on, like I just left yoga class or something, and like so I was at the post office yesterday, and I was mailing some stuff off, and this woman was standing next to me the whole time, didn't say nothing. I didn't even think anything, and she was doing her transaction, and she goes to leave, and she like comes up to me. She's like, I'm a big fan. I was like, oh my god, like what? Yeah. So, but the funny thing is, I have a dog, Blue Ginger, and sometimes like people recognize her before they recognize me, which cracks me up. Like I was walking my dog in Venice the other day, and the dog like crossed, and the guy couldn't pass over, so I was like trying to get Ginger, and he's like, "Oh my god, that's Blue Ginger," and he's like, hey, "Nyesha, oh my god," and so that was like pretty funny as well. But yeah, I mean, it happens here and there, not a lot, a lot.
I mean, you're on Fox Television, which
Yes,
is probably, I mean, look at the three-headed monsters of TV. They're right there.
big time. I'm
So
big time. It's
I'm
it's a big lead in, and I will say last year was so that was the craziest. That was like the most where I felt like people can see me like because
like I might be a celebrity now.
dude, they had like our faces on the side of like cabs and in like Times Square and all the things, and it was just
Right.
like, dude. And so this second season, which the show airs February 12th, and we have the number one spot. Um, the lead in is the Super
Come
Bowls.
on.
Like
What are we
what?
talking about?
I can't even. Like it's insane. And then they asked me to judge the UK version that just came out last week. So it's like all of a sudden I'm all out here working internationally.
But hold on, but this is not the first time because I remember last year during football season, what you or was it Top Chef you were on?
Oh, yeah, the guest
and
judge.
and they were just running that right after the game during the playoffs. I'm like, there's Nyesha again, like, so you've been here for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah,
So millions, and at this point, probably billions of people have seen your face consistently.
that's crazy.
Yeah, let that sit in for a minute.
That's crazy, crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let that go from all the way to the tip of your toes, and incredible, incredible. And I say that because you're easy to spot because of what we just talked about,
Yeah,
in a good way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But you are the only black woman that's that's holding it down for that position. And what a what a weight as well, right?
I love it. I love it, and I love that it's rooted in my craft, and so that just it means a lot to me. It really does, and I don't take it for granted. I think it's so important to always understand where you came from and who you are, and always bringing it back to the food, right? Because you can never it's never not about the food. I think that's really the separation point
Do
between.
do people who aren't chefs, and I'm just off the cuff question, feel intimidated to cook for you? Because I couldn't. I feel like my Mason spaghetti. I couldn't be like, I can't just offer her no spaghetti, bro. Like I can't. It's not his chance. I can't just offer. Do people feel intimidated to cook for you?
I'm gonna answer that honestly, yes. And I don't like that, but because it's like people rarely cook for me,
Right.
and I'm generally the one cooking, but like, dang, Keith, I love like that is a love language. Cooking is a love language, and
Maybe they
like
feel you're gonna judge them because that's what you actually do.
it is true. It's so true. It's like, dang, but I love it. I love when people cook for me.
That's
It's
funny.
good or not. Like
Right.
I'm gonna love it.
Yeah. No. Right on. Right on. Well, I want to get into, and this kind of goes into. I like to ask people. about this because one, you're from Los Angeles, you're a Southern California native, and also you're single. Am I correct? I don't want to assume. I don't want to assume you are, but let me know if I'm wrong. We want to let everybody know. And I know that
Next question,
right.
please.
um, dating in Los Angeles has been one of the things that seemed to be harder than filing your taxes. Essentially. And I want to know, do you agree with that? And then now, because of your esteem, I mean, sheesh, is it even more difficult to you feel like to date in this era, and especially in Los Angeles?
I don't, Keith. It's like, how am I gonna date? Like, I don't even. It's like I don't even know what this is because I mean, I'm telling you, I stay on my grind. Like I wake up, I went to yoga this morning, 6 a.m. Like, went to shoot some stuff that came here. So, it's just like my day is like I have a schedule. And for me to like really like I'm trying to like I want person to like add value to my life like because it's not like I'm like only trying to work. Like of
Right.
course I would like love to have a family. I would like love to nurture a home.
Uh-huh.
And I always saw that for myself, and I think partially that's kind of like why I became a chef. I always like pictured like making the perfect school lunches and like doing all of
Hey, your
that.
kids' lunch is gonna be crazy, bro.
Poppin'. Like, yeah, can your mom make me some lunch? No problem, I got you. Like I'm here for that. So yeah, I mean, I would say, as I, mature in my life, like I look forward to those times when I can kind of slow down and like nurture
Mhm.
other things other than business.
I mean, but I'm sure people have tried and or data or you've tried at that, and like what are some of the difficulties that you feel like you've experienced? I mean, you kind of mentioned one, just you're just busy, you're super busy.
Yeah, I would say, in full transparency, that's probably the main thing that is I don't know if it's an issue, but like, yeah, people have kind of had I probably should find someone that's like equally busy cuz like I'd be working. I think that's the main thing is trying to like make time for to slow down at times.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess that's definitely a part of the process, right? You got to
absolutely.
make time for it, otherwise
Absolutely.
otherwise it's not going to happen.
It's very true. It's very true. Yeah.
And then make time to keep it, and make, yeah,
100%.
it's definitely a time investment. Do you find, are you like, do you see now, because of where you are and being a celebrity as such, and people recognize you out in the streets, I mean, you got to get used to it, that's where you are. And you know that people are going to you have a lot to lose. You have a face that face makes you money now.
Mm.
That's what it is. Do you find it more difficult? Are you or more reluctant to dating now because of that, or you feel like you're more open to dating now because due to it?
Um I think it's like different stages of mindsets. I think like I have to be in that mindset to be like um open to nurturing that. And like right now, I think incrementally in different stages of your life, you're like, okay, it's grind time. Okay, no, it's chill time. And so I think for me right now, like I'm focused on trying to like level up and grow my career, so that the next stage of my life can be like a lot more comfortable. And so now I'm at the stage of my life where I'm like, it's not just for me, it's also for my parents. I see my parents getting older. I come from like a blue collar family, and I would like to be able to take care of them because they took very good care of me, and I think um, it's interesting. And it's interesting, like last year, this guy, he said something. He's like, oh, you're climbing up so quickly. Like the higher you climb, the harder you're going to fall. And it's like, you know, I think that life is about a journey, right? And maybe I will happen one day, but I cannot be afraid, right? To not share my craft with the world, and I think that's really kind of where I'm coming from is just being able to lean into my most authentic self, and that is being a chef, right? That's sharing my passion, that's sharing my knowledge, and I kind of always laugh or grin when I hear the word celebrity, because I don't look at myself that way.
You never will.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
never
I
will.
probably won't, you know?
You're stuck inside of the frame to see the entire picture.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
impossible for you to see. It's like look at yourself right now. I mean, now there's cameras there, but most of the time you don't get to get your own reflection.
No, it's
So
that's a good
people
point.
have to tell you there's something on your nose,
Yeah.
or hey, you got a little something right there,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
you're a freaking celebrity.
Yeah.
It's all the same. But yeah, I mean, I can only imagine it being that. So, is there like a rule to like? I know there's certain rules for like actors, like you don't date another actor or something like that. Is there a chef's unwritten code? Like, will you not date another chef, or how does that work?
No, I'm open to the soul. You know, I don't
Mhm.
think like the work trade part of that particular person has anything really that's gonna like drive me um, you know, either way. Like for me, I'm like I have to say, like, my dad set a really good example of like a
Okay,
partner.
right on.
And
Shout out to
so
the dads
I,
out there.
I best friend. And so like I want that, you know, like that type of character, you know.
Hmm.
And so just relentless, like willingness to show up, you know. And it's not easy, you know. I know relationships take a lot of work.
Does he have to know how to cook?
No,
That's what the world wants to know.
definitely not. I got that. It's not a negative. It's not a positive, but that's no problem for
I
me.
know there's is there any like non-negotiables like for certain things? Like I know for for certain men they'll say, she can't cook,
Right,
and you obviously would never have that problem,
right,
but for some women do have that problem. Is there any like non-negotiable, like he has to be able to do this?
right. I have to really think about that. I think my you know, I think a person who you know, likes to travel. I think a person who you know, wants to be dynamic in their life. I will say this: I'm not into like a lazy person. But like for me,
Okay.
that's like a pretty non-negotiable. Like that's just not gonna fit.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right on. I definitely appreciate you sharing a bit about that. I want to ask this question too as we round third here, but it's 2023. We're at the beginning of a new year, and a lot has happened. I think a year is a very long time. I feel like as I'm getting older, I used to think time was speeding up, but now I feel like it's starting to slow down, which I appreciate. What's something that in just 12 months, I don't want to go back to like when you were young and all that, just a year ago, like if you were
Yes.
able to sit next to yourself, your year ago self, and
Yes.
then what advice would you give your year ago self?
Wow.
Just 12 months from, 20 January 2022. Now that you've experienced all this and you know where you were, then what would you want yourself to know? Or at least what advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I would say to my year ago self, you know, in that the year that I've learned over this last time, I would say uh, to really just place value on yourself, you know, not um the opinions of others, right? I think the world, especially in the days of like, you know, where we have so much access to information, you know, it could get you can like have anything at the tip of your fingers, right? It's like I think it's important to look within. I think that's really important, you know, and especially when you are in the media, right? You can just there's such a vast like amount of communication going on simultaneously, and I think it's important to find those quiet times to just self-reflect, and I think that is uh, a place of value more than anything else is to just have and harness the peace.
The peace, harness the peace. Oh, I like that. Harness the peace
Mm,
because you gotta have it for when the unpeaceful times
mm,
come. Yeah, oh, I got some peace over here. Let me go ahead and grab a little bit of that. You need that, so you ain't lying about that one. I,
mm,
I like that answer. Um, okay, so this is a big question, and I hope you're ready for this because I told you I was going to ask you this question.
mm.
Um, Oftentimes, I feel like we don't get the opportunity to tell the people that we love the most what we want to tell them. And I like to provide that opportunity here with on this show. So if you don't mind, if this was your last day on earth, and it's not, but if it was, what was something that you would want to tell your parents?
Wow, my parents. I would tell them that they are literally the driving force behind everything that I do. Um, I made that decision very young that I was going to try to be the best that I can be, not just for myself, but for them as well. And I think I might not be home a lot, but I tried to make it back for Thanksgiving and birthdays and those celebrations. And I would tell them that even when we're not in those rooms sharing a meal together, that they are top of mind and the most important people in my life. And I try to say it now while I'm still on this planet. That my dad, like I said, he's my best friend. I'm very close to my mom as well, but I mean, it's very special, special people, and they made me who I am, and I, for sure, not a day goes by that I feel that my love for them is diminished in any kind of way. They are the true light of my life.
Well said. You have any siblings,
I do. I
brothers,
have a younger
sisters?
sister.
Well, let's talk to her.
Yeah, Janet. I love you with all of my heart. We've been through a lot together, and she's the person that I feel like I am my most me around. Um, I had the opportunity to spend a month with her around the holidays, and we hadn't spent that much time together since we lived in the same household. She is the person that we shared a room. I watched her go to high school, go to prom and all the things, and it's like um, she has such a empathetic, caring, beautiful heart that I feel like her heart is actually not made for this harsh world.
Mm.
She has such a tender, beautiful soul, and I want her to know that I see that in her, even when she doesn't value herself. But incredible, beautiful human, and I love you so much. It's just thank you.
Wow. Any immediate family? Sometimes we got that one cousin that it's like a sister or a brother, or that one auntie that was that bonus mom. If you have any, you don't have to say on that if you want to, but immediate family people that were super, impactful in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say Auntie Ingrid. I mean, the gumbo,
You can't talk
man,
about gumbo on the show. That's
hitting.
that's my it's my kryptonite right there.
Are you
I'll
kidding me?
I give them my two legs for just a pot.
Gumbo. I will never forget those days of being able to hang and eat the gumbo. I mean, um, all my family. I mean, but that right there, Auntie Ingrid with the gumbo, and all my cousins. They all hold very dear. We've spread out now between Atlanta and LA and Texas, but I love all my cousins. I wouldn't be who I am today without every single one of them for sure.
And last but certainly not least, I always like to thank the homies. The those friends that are blood couldn't make y'all no closer. What would you
Yeah,
like to say to them?
yeah, absolutely. Um, I would say, well, I would say, what will I say?
Well, I always encourage people not to say names because
Yeah,
because
exactly. I was like,
it starts to get long. So
exactly.
you can get them with a hit them with a general. And they know who they are.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to the homies. You know who you are. Big up. Now, I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't be who I am without the entire squad, and it's like, this is a beautiful thing, Keith, that you do because it's like, it makes you sit down and really think about the people in your life, the people that you don't get to see every day and tell them these things. So, yeah. And I especially want to say, my two cousins that keep coming up in my mind. So I'm just going to say their names, Chris and Ebony. They're just so special to me. I got to hang out with them the most coming up, and absolutely adore them, and should probably tell them that more often while I'm still here. But yeah, all the homies, man. It takes a village. It takes a village to do the things I'm out here attempting to do, which has not been done before. So all I want to say is
Facts.
that I express gratitude.
Facts. Facts. It has not been done before. And Nyesha, I must say thank you. I thank you for spending time with me today. I thank you for trailblazing and for not just chefs or not just Los Angeles, but Black women. And that's what this show is about. It's about those trailblazers who are paving the way for people to follow. And without people like you, I think the world wouldn't spin as fast as it does. So thank you so much, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Nyesha Arrington.